Ah, look at this. Oh, that's a shame. Well, it's a really sort of misty, foggy morning, and we're out with we're out with the prawn net. Calling it a prawn net, it's actually a shrimp net, but we want the prawns. You can see the ground behind me is sort of sand, a little bit of sort of pebbles, shingle there. Ideally, with the prawns, you're going into where all the big rocks are, scooping up the side of the rock, which is where the prawns are. And we're going to walk along in a minute to some rocks and have a look under there. But first of all, let's have a look out on the sand here using this push net. I mean, you can get these, a lot of coastal tackle shops do them, or you can actually make your own as well. It's the other way of doing it. And you will pick up other things. You pick up things like Dover sole we've had in here. I've had pipe fish. Exactly what comes out of here you never quite know, so if you're not catching on rod and line. So we'll have a little push round and hopefully I can show you some of the creatures that live over this sand and shingle. Now you can see here it does all fold up. I'll link to some in the description so you can have a look. The centre one goes through the middle, makes it rigid like this. Water's quite clear. A bit silty, still a bit of gully water around. So what we've got here then, there's a spider crab in there, but there's lots, you see here, we've got lots of these little swimmers. And some of those, you can see there, some of those have got roe. It wouldn't be a bad bait, to be honest. Smooth hounds would gobble that up, that size. Aggressive, really aggressive, these little swimmer ones. A few stones in there as well. So, I mean, we could give these a try, but they're not quite what we wanted. We want the prawns, and for those we need to go up against the rocks. There's the odd spider crab. I think sometimes people assume it's spider crabs eating all the bait, but if you imagine you're going to get 10, 20, 30 of those climbing up the line, eating a lugworm, eating your mackerel baits, I wonder whether a lot of them, what's actually eating them, what's actually eating your bait. Lots of these. You can imagine those all over your bait, can't you? Right, so this is what we're after. Look at this. So, in here, that was just one scoop, and there were loads of prawns. We'll probably put these small ones back. You can see the darker ones here. These female brooders. You can see the female brooders there, look. Those eggs, lots of eggs. Just want to sort out the bigger ones in here and then find those bigger ones, put them in. We don't want the shrimps, they can go back. I don't think we'll use those swimmers now we've found the prawns. Really silty and muddy, so rather than pushing the net, I'm just sort of skimming the mud off the top. Just at the turn of the tide, a bit more movement of these prawns and shrimp, so let's give it a go. Well, fine collection here. Some big shrimps. Look at that little Gurnard. Look at that. A little tub Gurnard, I think that is. Look at that little Gurnard. Wait. Nice soft crab. Maybe probably a Plaice or something. Oh god, dog's trying to eat. Hopefully not a weaver fish. Lots of little flatties in there. Loads of shrimps. More flatfish. Something's had a go at that. Look. That's a Rockling. One little prawn. Well, you can aerate these, but they do survive quite well. Prawns in cold water. And prawn there. Reasonable sized ones. These aren't see what a dog does with that crab. Options you can use to fish these prawns are free line them as well here, and we'll come on to what was the most successful way a little bit later, but for now it was time to jump in the kayak and see if we could find any bass on these prawns. Lovely water conditions. We're going to paddle out to a little reef. It's become more apparent as the tide drops, the reef, but I do have a little bit of a cheat which is to check the Navionics just to see if we're above this reef or not. Against tide, you see those small waves? So the tide's coming this way, the wind's coming that way. It is worth if you've got a kayak, making sure you can leave the line on the bow and the stern of the boat. Just makes it that little bit easier. I have to reach a little bit with this one. Well, we're going to return to the kayak shortly for a bit more success, but I thought I'd give these prawns a go off a local pier. So, plenty of prawns here. So the dilemma I've got then, this is definitely a keepable bass. It's about 50 centimetre, but I've just got one, so we'll put it back using a drop net. That's the advantage of these, using these lure hooks actually, although they're barbed, just a single hook rather than that treble. Ooh, lovely. So trying to keep things simple really. I'm using the Ultegra, actually the lure setup that I'm using. Really enjoying this Savage gear. This is a 4-piece rod. It's only 7 foot, which is quite short for a float rod, but it works well from the Kayak. I'm setting up that float. I'm just using the FG knot between the fluorocarbon. Weighted floats are better. I prefer them like this. You see they've got the lead on there. And then all you're going to do is run that up the line, and they just need to stop up the line. And basically the bead in between the float and the stop knot, I always use this power gun because you can put it on without having to thread a stop knot up the line. You can just tie it onto the line. 4 turns. Back round on yourself. It's a bit more fiddly than using a stop knot, but it does mean you can tie it on to the main line if it comes off or whatever. So then you would trim that, then the bead, then your float. If it's unweighted, you also got you've got a weight there. If your float's unweighted, then you've got a weight, and then I put a little bead further down, and then same sort of thing. Then I put a stop knot on the fluorocarbon part, and then I leave a fluorocarbon length of about 5 foot actually. It's quite long. And then you can, if you want to weight it, you can always put some shot on the line. Not too much though, I think it puts the fish off. And then obviously you set your depth of that stop knot to where you want your bait to float to. So fluorocarbon coming down, you then got your stop knot, however you choose to do that, bead. If it's an unweighted float, you'll have a float followed by your weight. That's just enough to cock the float, and then the bead. And then on the other end, the hook. And as I say, I use these lure hooks, one because I've got a load of them, but I quite like that nice wide gape, and that'll take most of those prawns. Really good quality. These are VMC, mustard do some as well, but I'll leave some details underneath. And then the hook, which is a VMC Predator. These are the super light inline singles, light for a lure hook, but for what we want them for, these are super strong. 7237. And I think they're 2.0, might be 3.0 those actually. But if you've got a few different sizes, you can use it to suit the bait. So if you get a load of big ones, you want bigger hooks. You use float stops as well, but you obviously need to thread those on before. You can see the conditions here. The water's quite clear. Some storms across the channel though. And there's a nice offshore breeze from the north. And I suppose it's cool for June. Great, I love this bit. For your first start. That's the one. Lovely. Under the boat. It's a bit of a pain. Hand this one up. It's just a schoolie. Ah, there it is. If you're fishing with these hooks, the advantage of fishing with those that